session, Limos To Logistics, a pitch of a story, is presented to you by Mr. Ratnesh Verma, founder and Chief Executive Officer, Pidge. Mr. Verma is recognized as a global accomplished business leader for delivering exceptional stakeholder value and has built successful businesses in India and across the entire Asia Pacific region.
Thank you. All right, for those of you who want to leave, please don't. All right, great to see some familiar faces. Warm hugs to all of you. It's been a long time. And for those of you who have just heard about me and not met me before, let me tell you, all that you have heard is true. And for those of you who do not know me, I am Ratnesh, and a lot of people kind of like ask, why did you kind of like leave the business 20 years, 24 years, and then do something absolutely crazy? So that's my quick story. When Manav asked me to come and speak at a hotel operations conference, I wasn't quite sure what he wanted me to do. So I thought I'm just going to, should I kind of like just tell you, give you gyan over here? That's not me. You guys are all very smart. Was I going to tell you what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong? That's not my place. I'm not in the industry anymore. So I thought I'm just going to just share with you my own journey. And if there is anything to take away from that, it's your perspective. But more importantly, if we can just go back to the slideshow, please. Yeah, so let's start with where I am today. And I think I've done pretty well for myself. I've held multiple positions, created a lot of stakeholder value for the companies that I worked with, done very well with Pidge. It's a top 50 startup in the world. We were just awarded in a conference held in San Francisco, which is like the Oscars for startup, and to be the only Indian company to be top 50 in the world is a really huge honor. So I guess we've really done, thank you. And the first Indian company to be in that space. So I think we've done fairly well for ourselves. But the important question really is, how did I get here? And what really is gets me to be somebody who was never a hotel operations person, to be a country manager, head of operations, never been a general manager, to someone who was heading development, investments, and acquisitions with no prior experience. So how did I really get here? How did I get to be the first person to leave India and go to an international hotel company's corporate office, work in a country where I didn't even speak the language? how did that all happen? And I'm quite often asked, like, are you lucky? Did that happen because I was lucky? Yeah, sure, I'm lucky. But I don't think it was luck. Now, a lot of times say, oh, you worked really hard for it. That's true, but a lot of people work hard for it too. It's the decisions you made, right? We all make decisions. But if you really kind of like put it all together, I think at the end of it, and I will lead to this towards the latter half, but I am here because of some key wiring. And I am a very firm believer that all of us have that wiring. I'm a very firm believer of nurture over nature. If you've all heard of that expression, nurture over nature, I believe we can do anything that we want. May sound preposterous, but if I put my mind to it today, I think I could go and play for the Indian cricket team. Sounds preposterous, but it's not. It's not. So it's a question of how you really think about yourself. And I would like to kind of like start with the first element of my wiring, tenacity. Do you all understand tenacity? Okay. Resilience. All right? The ability to face rejection. And if I really look back, I mean, yeah, that journey looks fantastic. On paper, I mean, if you were to read a motivational book, they're all telling you about all the good stuff that happens. And if you read about stories of successful leaders, you're all seeing, all the good things that are happening. But very often, you're not seeing the rejections they go through, the resilience they have. And I can give you specific examples. I mean, there was this certain game-changing moments in my own life. I was attending, so Hyatt was launching its shared services center in Germany, the first one outside of the US. This was back in 1999. And I'm sitting in that, I was invited to Mainz because I was the area head of finance. And I was invited and, I thought that's brilliant. So I said, hey, you know what? Let's open a shared services center in India. And it was met with a lot of laughter. I was literally scoffed at. And they were all my friends, so there was no offense, but it was all kind of like, what are you talking about? In a country you don't have mobile phones, you want to build redundancies from a wide area network point of view. And I went back a year later to the company and said, listen, here is what I'm going to do. Hyatt doesn't even need to put capital. I'll raise the capital locally. I'll set this up. And how about, we support this? Next thing you know, we set up India's first shared services center. And that was quite a defining moment. And at every stage, you go through more rejections, but it's really what you do with them. When I started Pidge, absolutely every single moment you're getting rejected by the customers. Initially, the investors are rejecting you. You are getting rejected by even potential employees. Nobody wants to join you because you're like, who the hell are you? And you, hotelier, why do we want to come and join Pidge? But if you don't have that tenacity to keep working through it, and today we are over 90 people in the company. One of the best talents, some of the best talents work with us. Our core team is rock solid, and we attract people. People are leaving larger startups, established businesses to come and work for Pidge. That's what we have built. We have onboarded 1,000 business accounts with 92% brand stickiness. That's what we have built. We've gone from 0 cities to 12 cities. That's what we have built. But that wasn't without rejection. And rejection at every stage. So it's really about how well you can deal with your rejection. I have seen, a lot of times, general managers would get very upset. Oh, the owner rejected this request. Oh, the management company rejected this request. Oh, they don't understand. How am I now going to perform? You have two choices. You can take rejection and be helpless about it, or you can take rejection and do something about it. You can fight it, not fight it, but fight it in terms of the reason, the rationale. You can fight it in terms of like, why are you rejecting this idea? Which kind of takes me to the second point. Oh, hang on, dude, you're too fast, come back. So, critical thinking, and I think this is one of the something that I've always seen in our ecosystem, not just in India, but around the world. As people go up the hierarchy, you're all leaders in the space, quite naturally your mindset is more width, because you've done the depth part at the early stages of your career. So your mindset is width. From being an assistant manager in food and beverage and restaurants, a restaurant manager, assistant F&B, ops manager, general manager, and then suddenly you've come from a very vertical growth and you find yourself in general management. Suddenly you're responsible for human resources, finance, marketing, everything, the bottom line. But what do you do to really adapt to it? How do you really change yourself? And I'm not questioning you, so don't get me wrong. I question myself. And the only way I've kind of like been where I am today is because of the ability to keep questioning myself and questioning everybody around me. Because I do not have all the answers. I don't. When we started Pidge, logistics was new to me. Was completely new to me. But I can tell you today, but we were very clear that we started with a problem statement. I can tell you today, 3 years hence, I know the problem statement better than anybody else. In the industry versus the veterans, people who run logistics for multiple years, I know the problem better. I say that with complete confidence. But do I have the best solution? I don't know. But I can tell you that I understand that problem the most, because I have spent time every single day in deep diving into the problem. There is a reason why they say, knowing the problem is half the solution. And how much time do we really spend to understand the problem? Right from childhood, you go with a question, you get an answer. Whether it's your parents, it's your school teachers, it's your university professors, or it's your general manager, or it's any manager. You go with a problem, you get an answer. You go with a question, you get an answer. But how many times do we really take a step back when somebody comes with a problem and say, hey, what do you think about it? Or actually, what's the problem you're trying to solve? What is the user need? What is the problem? And how much time do we really keep diving deep into that problem? Even when kids are a little small and they'll come to you and say, hey, mama, papa, what about this? And we'll give them an answer. And so then they'll say, what about this? And we'll give them an answer. The third time they say, what about this? And we'll just say, get out of here. We just don't encourage this whole process of asking ourselves that question. And that just manifests all the way into leadership. I can tell you, I am probably, every time somebody joins Pidge, and even during my corporate days, but every time somebody joins Pidge, they get a cultural shock. They get a cultural shock. Hey, Sanjay. They get a cultural shock not because it's new to them. They get a cultural shock because I ask too many questions, and they're not used to it. And my own team gets kind of like, let's do it. Why aren't you just doing it? Why don't you just tell us what to do? And I'm like, no, I haven't even fully understood the problem yet. But I can tell you one thing, once I've understood the problem, then nothing's going to stop us. And that's critical thinking. Ask yourself, are you a depth person or are you a width person? Do you know a little bit about everything? Or do you know something about in detail? And as you go up in leadership, you've got to identify, you've got to know, as they say, pick your battles. You've got to be able to identify which are the elements which I want to get into the depth of. And which are the elements I'm quite okay with the width. Because you can't get into the depth as a leadership with everything. So ask yourself that question. How many times are you going to be able to ask somebody who comes, just test it once. Ask the 5 questions. If somebody comes to you with a problem, ask 5 questions. And all of them are like, why this? But the why this? Oh, we need to do this. We need to have Thai food festival. Why? Oh, because we did it last year. We've been doing it for the last 4 years. So, why do we need to do it for the 5th year? Oh, because it gets a lot of people. What is the data point? What's the P&L? What are we going to do differently? Why do we have to do it again? And if the person who's in front of you can continue to answer those 5 questions, if the person in front of you can continue to answer that, I think you've got a star in your team. B, you're going to take a damn good decision. Which brings me to the third point, reinvent. And the reinvention here is not, I mean, everybody talks about disruption, everybody talks about innovation. I don't think we even get it. I don't think we understand what disruption is all about. You know, pandemic, 2 years we had one of the worst hit businesses was travel, tourism, and hospitality. We all know that. What did we really do to reinvent ourselves? And even today, I have a lot of friends in the hospitality space. Even today, everybody keeps saying, oh, we are going back to pre-pandemic levels. And I'm like, Jesus, you don't get it. You don't get it. Because you're just happy going back in time. Is that what you want to do with yourselves? 2 years, and I have a lot of just friends, different age groups, my children's friends, and you ask yourself, hey, you had a great opportunity in the last 2 years to reinvent yourself. And by reinventing yourself, I don't mean just learning a new skill. Say, oh, I learned how to put cucumber in my gin. That's not what I mean. But how did you really reinvent yourself? There's a lot of, everybody became YouTube champ. They were posting videos of mixing cocktails, you know, cooking new dishes, and, you know, the celebrities, the Bollywood was shown, you know, cleaning utensils. But was that really reinvention? Is that how you use the time that you got? Let me tell you a little thing about myself. And that's the reason why I am here where I am today. So back in 2010, I was sponsored by, or not sponsored, the wrong word, I was invited by Hyatt to be at a leadership program in Northwestern. And I was exposed to a concept of design thinking. Now, all of you go to hotel conferences, and your companies sponsor you for different things, and you're invited for, you know, events and so on and so forth. But have you asked yourself, what do you really do with it? Yeah, it's a great place to meet friends. It's a great place to meet people. It's a great occasion to have drinks and party. But what do you really come back with? Apart from some corporate guidance, apart from some corporate directions, we're now going to do this, we'll have a new shampoo, and apart from all of that, what have you gained from that? So I came back from that conference, and I kept thinking about design thinking. I thought, well, this is pretty exciting. And it was just literally a 2-hour session. I went ahead and enrolled myself with a design thinking boot camp at Stanford. That's where design thinking started, at my own cost. Changed my life. Completely changed my life. And I do encourage you, for some of you, this goes back to the critical thinking, I do encourage you to just read a little bit about design thinking. And I did eventually become a design thinking coach and mentor, but design thinking is all about you start with the problem. The solution's not important. Then back in 2014, my elder son was applying to college, and like any pokey father, I was like, hey, you got to get into the top college. Hey, you got to get into the top college. And he's going through his 12th and extended essays and so many different things, managing life, which is the toughest time in high school. So one day he said, like, you don't know how difficult it is to get into a college, into a top college. And I'm like, that's true. That's actually a very fair statement. So what did I do? I applied to Stanford again to do my master's at the age of 45. A full master's program from Stanford Graduate School of Business. I pushed myself. I reinvented myself. So things don't happen. You make them happen. And that's what critical thinking is. That's what reinvention is all about. Ask yourself every single day, what have I done to add value to myself? You hear a lot of times, and I've over the last many years, I've been interviewing a lot of people, and people will come say, I'm a learner. Everybody says, I'm a learner. And I'm just like, okay, so tell me, what have you learned in the last 6 months? That has made you a better person. Forget a professional. Forget a person. Just tell me, what have you done to make yourself a better person? What have you learned? A lot of times, some of the fancier guys, especially in leadership roles, will come and say, so what is your purpose in life? And they will, quite a standard answer nowadays has become, oh, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to be a better person every single day. And I'm like, that's fantastic. I love that. But can you tell me, what have you done in the last 3 months to make yourself a better version? What have you done in the last 6 months, in 2 years? And so if you don't even have that mindset, don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. If you truly want to be a better version of yourself, then get off that and do something about it. So how are you reinventing yourself? The problem is we take the present for granted. And if there's anything that the world has learned from the 2 years of pandemic, lockdowns, is you cannot take anything for granted. How are you better prepared for, as a leader, as a person, as a hotelier, how are you better prepared for the next adversity? It could be anything. It could be anything. Who knows? But one thing that I know is that every time there is an adversity, it changes the behaviors. It changes the psyche. It changes the behaviors. When 2001 happened, before 2001, you could walk into airports, you could walk into malls, you could walk into a cinema theater, no problem. 2001, 9/11 happened, and then there were metal detectors, X-ray machines. You can't even go to a hotel anymore without going through 3 layers of security and somebody shoving a mirror under your car. Why do we even do that? Why are we even doing that? And do we have the guts to stop it tomorrow? Why are we even doing it? But that's for you to question. Think about it. When 9/11 happened, it changed behaviors for everything. It's 21 years now. And there is a saying in psychology, there's a hard fact that it takes 60 days to build a habit. This has been 2 years of pandemic, guys. Habits have changed. Consumption psyche has changed. Consumer behavior has changed. So what are we doing about it? Which brings me to the fourth point, diversity. And I know diversity is I don't mean about diversity in terms of gender, race, sex, and I know all of you will do it, but I really mean diversity in terms of you yourself. How are you building different experiences every single day? How diverse are you as a person? That's where diversity starts. How diverse are people around you? I was very clear from day one when we started Pidge that we are going to hire people who are all different. We're never going to hire more than 3 people or 2 people, 3 initially, 2 now, from the same company. We will not. Because we want to build a very diverse organization. Diverse in terms of experiences. And when people say, oh, surround yourself with people who are like you, like-minded people, I think that is the biggest BS. Surround yourself with people who are unlike you, because you're going to learn something from them. So how diverse are you? And I'm not, again, I repeat, diversity, yes, absolutely, I stand for diversity, 100%. But it starts with you. How diverse are your experiences? How diverse are your social groups? How diverse is your behavior? I'll just have to speak faster. Manu just gave me this. Okay. And finally, the brand. This is not the brand that you work for. What is your brand? I'll tell you what's my brand. If there was a book written about me, the book's title would be Diving Head In First. I'm known for taking risks. If I look back in my life, a lot of decisions that I took, I look back and say, Ratnesh, you were simply crazy. You were mad to have taken those decisions. But I know for a fact that's how I'm wired. I'll go in head in first and I'll figure it out. I'll come out well. I'll come out winning. I know that about myself. But what's your brand? Have you figured that out? And what are you doing to find your brand, to grow your brand, and to communicate your brand? What's your brand? And that, to me, is a 5-star mindset. Do you have that 5-star mindset? So, for me, the journey has just begun. I'm happy to take any questions. I know the time's up. Happy to take any questions outside. But again, I hope that you're going to reinvent yourself and you're going to build that diversity. Most importantly, you're going to build your brand. Okay, before I sign off, I want to congratulate Manav for 25 years of starting hospitality consulting in this country. And he's kind of like the pioneer. Well done. All right, thank you so much. Great to meet all of you, and happy to just interact outside. Thank you.